Hi guys, welcome to your week 4 of your advanced training class. I know this is less than ideal. I am really hoping that we'll be able to get together later in the spring outdoors and do some real work, and I can really kind of coach you guys and critique what's going on. I do appreciate the videos that have been presented though. It looks like everyone's really continuing to work hard and raise the bar and raise the criteria for their dogs, which is important when you want to progress to a more advanced performance with your dog, performance level. All right, so attention, eye contact. That should be all going very well now. Dogs aren't robots. It'll never be perfect. Even Josie, who's spot on, she's really, really good, well trained. There's certain distractions that it will take a little bit of time, like maybe 3 to 5 seconds for her to take her attention off that and look at me. I have been okay with that because she still always comes back and looks at me, and I can get her to follow a command or follow through a leave it, a touch, a simple behavior, something like that from that point. So that has always been good for me. But in the majority of distractions or situations, her eye contact in response to her name is within 1 to 2 seconds, which is great. So continue to work on that. Continue to work on raising the bar with your attention in areas of distraction. Always keep it real and always keep it in perspective depending on what the distraction level is. Remember, dogs will interpret how we reward them, all right, or things that we give them feedback for versus things that we don't give them feedback for. So if in areas of distraction your dog's response is okay, it's not great, but it's not awful, still acknowledge that, still give some praise, but don't necessarily give food if you're working in a distraction level that you think that your dog should have responded better, or you want them to know that they can, or that they should respond better than they did. Only offer praise. Do not offer food. Try again. If they give you a better response, offer food. If they give you a really poor response, like they don't really show up with eye contact at all, you've had to ask them a few times, you may be pressured into them a little bit to remind them that you would rather them pay attention to you, and they still don't, move on. Take it as a loss and move on. Give no acknowledgement, no feedback, just carry on. So when you're working with positive reinforcement and reward-based techniques, the punishment or the opposite of a reward is no reward. So sometimes, and I know I definitely do this in agility training sometimes, especially with my Riggs puppy right now, where I'm creating a foundation for him of things that I want him to know are very important to me, whether he does or doesn't do them. So for instance, if he knocks a bar or something, he gets absolutely no acknowledgement. I don't even look at him when he knocks the bar, but I set him right back up and try again. As opposed to if he had success with something, I have a celebration, we play a lot of tug, and then I set him up and try again, but it's a totally different energy. So he's becoming really, really mindful of, well, the lady doesn't really like it when the bars fall. I don't get to have as much fun, there's not as much interaction. So absence of a reward, absence of feedback from the handler is information to your dog about, maybe I didn't love that, maybe I should try something different. So keep that in mind as you work in your areas of higher distraction, but definitely practice. It is starting to get nicer out. Get out there wherever you can find a few people or something, or just even honestly, I find springtime is distracting for dogs anyways. There's more sounds, there's smells, there's all kinds of stuff going on, so definitely work them outside in some different areas. It could even mean working on a different area of your walk. I know we're all creatures of habit. I walk the same routes most days. Sometimes I mix it up. not often, but sometimes. But I may just pick a different point to work some things on my young dog. Maybe there's a dog barking at me, so I'm going to take an opportunity to work maybe a little bit of attention, see how quickly my dog looks back to me, as opposed to an area maybe where I typically work where it's a little bit quieter. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, when you become as much of a dog dork as I am, I look for opportunities for training. So I don't look for like, where's the easiest place for me to train where my dog will have the most success. I will look for areas where they might not have success, or it might be harder for them, so I can help them cope with that, help them learn how to respond and what I like, and that they can still do things to earn reward, but they just have to show up and work despite what's going on around them. So be creative with that. Try not to shy too far away from things that are distracting. What my advice to you, I guess, is that you may just need to increase your distance between your dog and whatever it is they're finding distracting. So if it's a dog that's barking at them and you're trying to work on some eye contact, maybe move across the street. Don't move completely out of earshot from that barking dog, or eye shot from that barking dog, but maybe add a little bit of lateral distance, go to the other side of the street, or like turn your body so that maybe you are a little bit of a buffer between your dog and what is distracting. So but yeah, don't shy away from distractions, but find the area where your dog is comfortable or can have some success and reward them, and then kind of work at bridging that gap a little bit. Do remember that if your dog is too distracted by something and they're not paying attention to you, block them. So if my dog was here and distracted by something, block them with a little bit of forward movement, okay? Remember that pressure into your dog is information that they should look to avoid. They should look to avoid you putting pressure on them. They like to be free moving, they like to look around, but they do really understand what pressuring in means to you or means to them. So yeah, if they're too distracted, also tighten up on your leash a bit. Not as a correction, but anytime you need a little bit more control on your dog, always you want to hold closer to the clip, closer to the collar clip, at kind of close at the end of your leash, not at 4 or 6 feet, but closer to your dog. A little bit of pressure in. You can even use one of those no reward markers like hey or ah. I also sometimes use but try as best as you can not to use your dog's name in a cranky tone, but use like your hey, something like that, and then try their name again in a more upbeat, happier energy tone. Though, as your dog is having success with attention in areas of distraction, start raising your criteria like you did the 1 week we worked in class. But the way you did initially when you were kind of building on your criteria, you were not food rewarding the mediocre responses and only offering food rewards for the better responses. So as they get a bit more confidence in areas of distraction, make sure you're raising your criteria. It means that you're doling out less food rewards for the entry level position. Okay, recall. So usually in this week of training, we start doing recall in class. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Like any other behavior that we teach in our dogs, with recall, we really need to master it in areas fairly free of distraction, so your dog has a good understanding of what's expected of them before we can expect anything wonderful or proofed in areas of distraction. So I find recall definitely tends to be one of those exercises that people only try to train it in the moment when they need it. Their dog is running away and suddenly we need them to come. So we start yelling at them to come. Excuse me, that's what people often consider training. It's not training at all. I still practice recall all the time with my older dogs. Which is just Josie now, but definitely a ton with my puppy, he's got a great recall. He's 9 months old today. He turns on a dime. Yeah, it's great. But I still practice it with him, even though he's great. And even in areas of distraction, he's pretty good. but I still practice all the time with him. It's something that I really, really include lots in my foundation. So we need to master it in areas of low to moderate distraction before expecting any reliability in areas of higher distraction. The best way to teach your dog to follow, to come, is to teach them to follow you and chase you. Mark and reward them nice and close to your body when they catch up. Okay. I also will hold onto their collar and make sure that they know I have a good hold of them before I offer that food reward. And I like to do that as well, so they're really well versed at having their collar grabbed, and that's not a negative thing in any way for them. So practice on a regular leash in areas of high distraction, and a 10 to 20 foot leash or long line in areas of less distraction. Okay, so again, keeping your dog closer is going to give you better control. So if it's an area that's fairly high distraction, you may not want your dog on a big long line because they're going to get all involved in their environment and overstimulated. Keep them on a shorter leash when you go and practice in areas of higher distraction. They can't get very far away. You move away, encourage them to follow along with you, give them lots of reward for coming close. But there's less room for error when you use a shorter leash. But in areas that you are a little bit more comfortable with your dog loose, you can use a longer line. That's almost considered loose, 10 or 20 feet. You could use more than that if you wanted, but for recall, I usually don't go too crazy for a leash length. The key, there's two really big keys, but the biggest key is to control the environment when you're training recall. The only way to control the environment is to keep your dog on leash. So all of my young dogs walk on long lines before they're ever let loose. I do lots of practice on my recall foundation before I ever let them loose. Riggs is a great example. Even as a baby puppy, I didn't even let him loose in my fenced-in backyard because he had no inclination to follow me. He had no understanding that he should really check in or follow me if I asked him to. So even in a fenced-in yard, I kept that puppy on leash until he knew what it meant to come when he was called. So it's super important that they do not learn to have fun running away from you. Hence the leash, controlling the environment. Dogs will go out and find things to stimulate themselves and overstimulate themselves in their environment, and it's always going to be way more exciting than the handler, who's like the fun police in that moment. So yeah, use a leash or long line for sure. It's really important that they learn not to have fun running away from you. And in those early moments with my Riggs puppy, when he did have fun running away from me in my yard when he was 10 weeks old, when I didn't have him on a leash before I knew better, even though I did know better, I never chased him. Not ever once did I try to think that I could catch that puppy. You're never going to catch your puppy unless they have a broken leg. Like, you're not going to catch the puppy. So try to prevent them from running away from you. Try to prevent them with a leash. Encourage them to follow you by moving away. That let them know and understand that you're not actually going to engage in a game of chase if they decide, or if they're, you don't have control in that moment. It wasn't a perfect day in the life of owning a dog, which is almost every day. But yeah, if it's it's important they learn not to have fun chasing away. They need to have a lot of fun chasing you. So that needs to be the game, running away from them, tossing toys for them to chase past you, feeding them when they get to you, all kinds of different things that you can incorporate into that recall. Playing games of hide and seek can be fun too. Do that just around your house. In the house is cool. Outside, again, if you have a secure area where you can do a little hide and seek with them, that's fun because it does actually teach them to pay attention. It teaches them to watch for you. It teaches them to keep an ear out for you and wonder where you're at. And as a bonus, it creates a whole lot of fun when they find you and when they catch up to you. There's an added bonus of I didn't see them and now I do, and it's super exciting. If you add a toy or food reward to that, it's even better. If you are one to play tug of war or incorporate toys into your recall, definitely do that. I tend to, now Josie's definitely a lot more food motivated than Riggs and some of my other dogs. But even with her, in her foundation, I started incorporating toys into Recall. I definitely do a lot of tug with Recall. I definitely do a ton of that with my Riggs puppy. Tug is one of his primary rewards for anything. The nice thing about tug or any toy involvement in a Recall is that it increases the value of the handler. So food is one thing. It's just like bam, 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 like, just giving them food, no big deal. But toys require handler interaction to be really exciting. So to me, and if your dog enjoys playing those games, then it really just increases the value to the handler. So the way I like people to practice Recall, and I know everyone has trained with me before, so you definitely have done this in a class setting. I am going to get some before this group has resolved or dissolved. I'm going to get some better videos of doing good recalls and your heel work as well. But the general way that I like people to work on recall, I'll bring my demo dog out here in a second, but I'll leave him down here. So I'm going to leave him on a stay. And I'm only going to go probably, well, you guys are advanced, so I'd probably go at least, 8 or 10 feet away, depending on the space you have. I like to initially have my back to the dog, disconnect. Then when I decide to call, I'm going to look over my shoulder, connect with my dog, call him, run off, reward when he gets to me. Riggs? Hi. How are you? Were you sleeping? He was having no sleep. Yeah. A rough day, wasn't it? Rough day being a dog. Hanging out, having walks and training. It's tough stuff, isn't it? Let's go, buddy. Heel. So I'm going to leave him. I left him on a stay 6 or 8 feet away from him. I've disconnected. I'm going to look. I'm going to call him, and I'm going to run, reward him when he gets to me. Riggs, come. Yes. Boy. So I can't really do a ton of running because I'm in my house, but I get a little bit of momentum there. I'll do it that way again. Here, buddy. Good boy. Oh, sleepy. Sit. What a good puppy. You good fella. You good fella. Wait. Sometimes I'll vary the length between when I call him. I might wait out here for a few seconds. Riggs, come. Yes. Good boy. What a good job, buddy. What a good job, buddy. If I had a tug, all his toys are currently outside, but if I had a tug right here, I might incorporate a little bit of tug into that. Actually, I see one. I spy one over here. Hold on. Good job, buddy. I'm going to try for tugging. Yeah. Where's heel? Heel, bud. Sit. Good boy. Wait. Wait. Riggs, come. Yes. Did everyone see how much faster he actually came this time? He kind of sped along the kitchen floor a bit. Yeah, target! You've done that, target! You've done that, target! So this dog is definitely a lot more toy motivated than food. Good boy! What a good boy! Good job! A lot more toy motivated than food, and dogs that are toy motivated at all, I really encourage you to incorporate them into your recall because again, handlers make the toys come alive, and toys create more drive, more fun, and yeah, you could see very clearly that Riggs was a lot more quick. He was pretty fast to come for the food, but he was faster to come and more excited to come for the toy. What a good puppy. Woke him right up, didn't we? Woke him right up. So that's your recall, but really, really remember that if you have questionable reliability with it, definitely have your dog on a leash or long line. It's so, so important. And even if you're out in areas where, like maybe you have some kind of quieter areas where you safely walk your dogs off leash, if you're coming to an area where you maybe aren't going to be able to see if people are coming up on you, or maybe you hear that there are people coming up on you, snap your dog's leash or long line on. Try to prevent them from going away without permission. Maybe take that opportunity if there being some added distraction to move off the trail and practice some recall while there's some distracting sounds or sights around. Look for those training opportunities. With this little guy and with all the dogs I've had, that's kind of how I conduct myself in life and on walks with dogs. So I do a lot of off-leash hikes and walks with my dogs. It's just part of who I am and part of what I do with them. And like with Riggs right now, mind you, some of our favorite places where we walk are closed, but before they were closed, we would walk regularly, and I would often snap his leash on if I saw or heard that someone was coming, even if he didn't initially look like he wanted to go and run towards them. I wanted to prevent it, and I wanted to practice and reiterate to him that I'd rather him come back to me. 9 times out of 10, depending on like the group that I might be passing or the people that I'm passing, 9 times out of 10, I may let my dog go say hi, but I don't like or let him do that, or any of them, without permission. So I try to prevent them doing it with their own permission, reward them for coming back to me, then I'll unclip the leash and let them, based on my verbal go say hi is what I tend to say, then I'll let them kind of go say hi, or I'll carry on without doing that at all, depending on the situation. So yeah, recall takes practice. Leave them on a stay, disconnect, walk away, call them, run. Leave it. This is a good one to practice, because my puppy doesn't have a great leave it. I don't have anything set up here to do leave it though, having said that. But I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared at all. Hold on, I'll get prepared. Alright, so I'm prepared with my cup of kibble. So what I'm going to do, I'll put it on a Tupperware container for a visual. So the idea with leave it, when you're practicing it or teaching it to start, you want to have something that the dog considers moderately rewarding and something that they consider maybe a little bit more rewarding. So I'm hoping that he finds the training treats that I use more rewarding than the kibble he eats twice a day out of the bowl. So I'm going to use kibble as my my distraction or my object for leave it, and my treat rewards for him doing the leave it. Now, in my opinion, leave it is also one of those exercises that people try to only train in the moment when they need it. They don't teach leave it, and then their dog's trying to get at something or into something, and they're saying leave it, leave it, leave it. It's not how it works. Your dog's really not going to learn anything from that. You need to teach the skill. Teach the skill first before you start barking commands at them. So this does require a leash, because you do need to control the environment. So I'm going to have a leash. I'm trying to figure out, come here bud, visually, where you guys can best see. There you go. Oh, it's a good and sleepy puppy. You're cute. You're cute. Aren't ya? You're cute. Alright. Wait there. That doesn't work, does it? Oh, these online videos are not my thing. Alright, so you guys can see that there's kibble on that. So, when my puppy tries to get this kibble, I'm just going to ignore him, and I'm going to wait for the moment when he looks away from that distraction, and when he does, I'm going to mark and treat him with hopefully what he likes as better treats from my pocket. Yes. Okay, so the moment I feel him putting a little slack on his leash and kind of giving up that fight, I mark with my yes and a food reward. Boy, buddy. Sorry. Come here, Papa. Yes. Boy. Yes. Good boy. I'm dropping food here. Yes. So he obviously already knows this a little bit. I haven't done nearly as much work on Leave It as I probably should have at this point. I don't have a really strong Leave It cue with him because I just haven't practiced it enough, but he understands this kind of setup. Yes. Right? So once your dog is reliably kind of looking away, yes, like Riggs is, what you want to do is as your dog turns their head away, leave it. Yes. That's when you want to cue your leave it. Because leave it actually means look away. So again, this is what I think people do wrong from the beginning is they don't teach the look away. They just bark at their dogs to leave it when they're trying to get something, and they don't truly teach anything. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to set them up with an exercise that they can get an understanding of what we're looking for, reward the response that we want, and then we're going to name that response, and we're going to name it leave it. So again, as the dog turns away is what you want to call leave it, because it's what you want them to put together, that behavior with that cue. And then I'm going to continue to mark with my yes and reward. So I'm going to do that a few more times with him. Okay. Leave it. Yes, good boy. Get that. If I drop food, by the way, if I drop food and I'm allowing my dog to get it, I usually give them a little verbal allowance to do so. So I usually say, get it. Good boy. Let's go. There. Leave it. Yes. Good boy. Try on the other side. Try and go this way. Yep. This way. Leave it. Yes. Good. Let's go. Good boy. That was hard, wasn't it? Come on. Leave it. Yes. Leave it. Yes. Leave it. Yes. Now, if I was really doing a good job, good boy, buddy. If I was really doing a good job with my puppy, he'd already know leave it with all the cat toys down in the house. That's something I should actually work on, leave it. It's fine when I have him on leash in a training situation, but when he's just loose and there's cat toys around here, it's a bit different. So that will be my project, to work on that a little harder. But yeah, that's your leave it. That's how I tend to start it. I should follow a bit of my own advice and up my criteria, and with this kid move on to like cat toys and things in the house that I'd rather him ignore a bit more. So that's maybe my own homework going forward, but that's where I started. I started with a little bit of like mediocre kibble that they're kind of used to having all the time, but to offer them a better reward from my pocket. Once I'm getting that, buddy, you like flat? Once I'm getting the response I'm looking for, then I call it something. I call it leave it, still mark and reward. So what I typically do in the advanced class is after we've worked on leave it's for a week, typically in week 5, I add little piles of kibble or treats on little Tupperware containers to your figure 8 work with your heel work. So Work hard on your leave-its this week. Typically, I don't do any heel work, and I'm not gonna demo any new figure eight stuff this week. I will though, again, attempt to get a video in the next weekend or two with a little bit better demonstration on your walking. But yeah, keep up with what you're doing with your figure eight work. Okay. Review kind of the video or the notes that I've left you the last couple of weeks. Carry on with that a bit. Know that I am going to encourage you to start incorporating some leave-its into your work next week. And that I will also provide a demonstration with Riggs. I was going to say, or Josie, but I'll probably use Riggs because he needs that work as well. Josie is really good at it. Yeah, so that's your leave-it. Did recall, talked about attention this week. The last thing I want to leave you with is just about your stays. Really, wrong paper. Really, I just want you working on some more distractions. That's all. Actually, I could do a little demo with him if I don't have a ball right here. Oh, I can use a con. Start adding maybe some movement. So dogs are typically distracted by things that are moving. They like to chase them. Come on, buddy. Come on. Sit. So you can start adding a little bit of a moving distraction or target. Wait, stay. So I'll use his Kong. It's actually kind of got a couple options for rewards. It moves around funny and he gets treats out of it sometimes. Stay. So what I might do if I was starting to add some toy movement to my stay is I wouldn't go a far distance. So I'm only maybe 6 feet away from him. I will step back and reward him. Yes. Stay. I'll reward him for doing just a bit of a basic stay a couple times. Again, not too far of a distance. Yes. Stay. So I don't know if you guys could see that on the bottom of the screen. Stay. Probably not. But I just kind of rolled the Kong in front of him. I don't want it to be too close to him. So that's why you guys can't see it. Whoops. Kongs are crazy. But you probably saw him notice it. Roll on by. Good boy. Good stay. Didn't roll very far. Oh, it's continuing to roll. Yes. Stay. Next week I'll bring a ball or something. Yes. Stay. If you have a food motivated dog, go to your cupboard. Grab some chips. It's also what I tend to do on stays in class. Sprinkle the bag. Okay, often what I'll do too in class is I'll like drop some chips or food on the floor a little bit, or just kind of crinkle them in my hand and then drop the back of the bag. You can see he's looking to the floor and he's looking for dropsies. He knows humans are messy. Mom likes chips. So do stuff like that too. Again, adding movement tends to be a lot for a lot of dogs, but depending on the dog, food distractions can be also. With Josie, that's a big one for sure. Yes. Good boy. Good job. Okay, bud, I'm done. He's like, oh, I get to go get the Kong now. It's great. It's wonderful. I don't always release my dog out to the distraction. Good boy. But mine just happened to be there, and he did a lovely stay. So that's your week 4 ideas and thoughts on moving forward with your skills. I look forward to hearing from everybody. Maybe post me some videos. I'll do my best to get some better heel work and recall videos for you guys over the next couple weeks. And I hope everyone is staying safe and enjoying their dogs and their time with their dogs. Let me know if I can help in any way. Thank you. Have a good night.